Welcome, public speaking students. Good to have you today. Unfortunately, I am out of the office, but around 11:30, you should be joining Mrs. McClintock for our live class and viewing the video if you're a blended student or if you're just coming in for live class. So let's take a look and see what we got for today. Quick announcement before we jump into the lesson. Remember that the announcements are right here. You want to make sure that you see and review them and know everything that you need to know. These have not really changed since Tuesday, so if you feel good to go on all of this, you're good to go. And then just keep in mind the next available date for peer tutoring is going to be the Friday, October 24th. Our goal today is to go through our lessons, and we'll do a quick review of some things we remembered from our Tuesday lesson as well. But the goal by the end of the week with these assignments is to make sure that you're displaying nonverbal techniques or nonverbal communication that's effective in your speech giving as you go through. So the storytelling speech is basically a monologue where you're kind of talking out to the audience without having any feedback coming back to you. And as you do that, you want to make sure that you're using nonverbal communication to get across the emotion and make the piece come to life. You have some variety though. You can use a children's story or anything else like that that might be helpful as long as it meets the requirements. So let's go ahead and get into week 6. Under today's space, you'll see the storytelling speech analysis and also the storytelling speech delivery. That's where you actually give your speech. If you haven't completed the storytelling speech selection from Tuesday and Monday, please do that first. And remember that an example of a really good version of this assignment is going to be in the Ed Puzzle, Tani's performance. Okay, so if you want to review sort of what this should look like to get the full points, it's right there. And also make sure this is done first because you'll need the information from the storytelling speech selection to do the analysis and the actual speech for this last part of the week. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the storytelling speech analysis. You can pause the video, make sure everybody is open to week 6 and this assignment. Once you get there, go ahead and open up the Google Doc. And based on your speech or your monologue or your children's story, whatever you're choosing, make sure you again tell me your title and author of your selection. Then I'd like you to go through the script and mark some of the things that you see here. Any unfamiliar words, okay, either for you or other people who might be looking and listening to whatever you're going to deliver for your storytelling speech. Make sure to get points that you do this for at least 2 words. The next part is just looking into the overall feel and idea of the speech you're delivering. Summarize the overall meaning or theme. Make sure that your selection is good to go to your audience. So, for example, if you're reading a children's book, you might want to talk about which age or grade the children's book might appeal to. Then do some homework into the speaker and the overall piece itself if it's a part of a larger work. So, who is speaking and how will that help you understand how to convey that nonverbal communication effectively when you do your storytelling speech? Also, think about the connection between the audience and the speaker, whoever might be, the person you're embodying in your speech. The last part is the mood. This is going to be especially helpful because to convey that mood, you might have to apply different elements of paralanguage, certain facial expressions, various kinds of eye contact, and body language as you go through. So think about those things and make sure you have it there. And then the last part is to actually put your text in here again so that you're clear on what exactly it is you're delivering. Okay. Once you have all of these things, you can turn it in and your analysis will be done. So, real quick, if you could all take a moment and type in the chat for Mrs. McClintock, what is the name of the assignment you must have in before you do this assignment, the storytelling speech analysis? If you're not sure, go back to the Monday, Tuesday space of the week 6 agenda and type in the chat the name of the assignment that must be done before this to do this one successfully. Okay, And everybody should have said the storytelling speech selection. Okay. So let's go to the next assignment, and this is where you actually do your storytelling speech delivery. Okay. At the very top, you'll have a Google Doc with all the information, but it's also just going to be in here for you. And when you hit Start Assignment, you're going to see that record box come up. That's what you'll want to use. Make sure that when you're recording, you're using the camera, because I need to be able to see your nonverbal communication in order to give you points for the assignment. Okay, so the first thing is talk about your piece before you actually go in and deliver it. So mention the title, the author, maybe the reason you chose this particular selection, the monologue, the kids' book, whatever you're using for this. Give a little bit of background information on the author or the piece itself. When was it written? Who was it written for? Etc. The next part is make sure that you're only going in and being brief with what you have. So some of these are ideas to help you with your introduction. Doesn't need to be any more than maybe, I'd say 30 seconds to a minute. All right, the next thing is that you want to prepare to actually deliver your speech. So without recording yourself, make sure you make notes inside of the manuscript or the text of what you're reading, mentioning various things like where you're going to have your facial expressions, eye contact, what kind of paralanguage you'll be using for different parts, all of that nonverbal communication that's going to be necessary. Once you have that and you've practiced a few times, you can go in and record. So remember to have your intro and your actual piece in the recording. Okay. One other thing to remember that I mentioned earlier in the video, please take a moment to pause the video and then in the chat tell Mrs. McClintock if you need your camera on or off for this assignment. And the answer is yes, you will need your camera on. If you are uncomfortable recording with the camera on, please contact me with my email address and we'll schedule a time for you to do this with me on Zoom so that it doesn't have to be recorded. At the very bottom of everything, you're going to see the rubric for the speech delivery. So you get points for giving the introduction, again, 30 seconds to a minute, and then the 2 or 3 minutes of time that you'll need to actually deliver your speech. Okay, so again, you don't have to write this speech. All you're doing is reciting it, but showing that nonverbal communication in an effective way so that you get the points for it, right? And show the skill. So we're looking for eye contact and the various other ideas. You get points for each of these things. You also get points to make sure that your manuscript meets the criteria of the assignment. That's about all. Please use the rest of this class to work on these 2 assignments and anything else you might need. Feel free to email me with any questions and take care.